स्क्रीन बेशक शेयर कर लें, जब तक वो कनेक्ट करेंगे फिर टाइम सेव हो जाएगा।
I hope you can see my screen.
Ji sir, we can. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Arooj Saqib, on behalf of Pakistan Alliance for Early Childhood, I welcome you to our webinar series ECD in the time of COVID-19. आपको पता है इस पैंडेमिक के बाद क्या सिचुएशन है, और स्पेशली एजुकेशन को लेके कि हम देख रहे हैं कि जो चेंज आया एंड वी हैव टू गो डिजिटल, और उसमें बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस का भी हमें सामना करना पड़ा। कुछ इमोशनल चैलेंजेस थे, कुछ फिजिकल चैलेंजेस थे, कुछ टीचिंग एंड लर्निंग के चैलेंजेस थे। तो उनको सबको सामने रखते हुए जो आज हमारा वेबिनार है, उसका टॉपिक है न्यू डायनामिक्स ऑफ ऑनलाइन टीचिंग एंड इट्स इम्पैक्ट ऑन यंग चिल्ड्रन, चैलेंजेस एंड सॉल्यूशंस फॉर कंटिन्यूटी ऑफ लर्निंग। और आज हमारे साथ हमारी बड़ी खुशकिस्मती है कि सर आइन शाह साहब हैं, जो हेड हैं आगा खान एजुकेशन फाउंडेशन एजुकेशन सर्विसेज के पाकिस्तान में। और सर का माशाल्लाह इस स्पेसिफिक फील्ड से जो ऑनलाइन ये जो लर्निंग एजुकेशन और टेक्नोलॉजी है, सर का बड़ा वास्ता है और बड़ा काम है सर का इसके ऊपर। आज डिटेल में सर हमें बताएंगे भी। इसके अलावा सर जो है वो एजुकेशनल प्लानिंग एंड मैनेजमेंट और ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल डेवलपमेंट पे बहुत काम सर ने किया। प्रोफेशनल लर्निंग कम्युनिटीज के बारे में सर की बड़ी सर्विसेज हैं। तो मैं ज़्यादा इस पे टाइम नहीं आपका लूँगी, ऑलरेडी टेक्निकल ग्लिचेस की वजह से सम टाइम हैज़ बीन कंज्यूम्ड। तो over to you. I welcome you, sir, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Arooj, and thanks to Khadija as well for reaching out to me and accommodating. और बहुत खुशी की बात है कि I am able to talk to you about some of the experiences we have done. And while majority I can see a lot of people who have ECD experience already, शायद उन्होंने और ज़्यादा काम किया होगा जो हमने किया है, but it's good to have some reflection. So before going to the presentation, Khan Education Service, हमारे schools across Pakistan हैं। उस हवाले से जो contextual diversity है, that's a key thing to our portfolio. बहुत अर्बन में कराची में भी है, इंटीरियर सिंध में भी हैं, पंजाब में भी, and then majority of schools in Gilgit-Baltistan and Chitral. So we had that challenge as well as that privilege to running the schools in diverse contexts, जहाँ सर्दी का इशू है, गर्मी का है, pollution का है, population का है, and when you talk about COVID, तो उसकी जो unique वो थी कि cities में और urban settings में, semi-urban में, rural में, तो वो एक unique situation है जो हमें एक competitive edge देती है कि we have that diversity of experience across the country. तो आज की स्टॉक में I'll try to sandwich the discussion, और इसमें while we will talk about ECD, लेकिन उस पे जाने से पहले I'll try to give a paradigm, and where I'll pose questions. Those questions may not be answered by me, may not be answered by you, but may be significant when we talk about digital learning, digital literacy, early years, and learning and child development. तो वो context मुहैया करेगा। जो दूसरा हिस्सा होगा, there I'll try to kind of report what we did. And जो तीसरा हिस्सा होगा, we go back to the questions and have some reflection कि what we learned. और एक as a teacher, I again and again talk whenever I talk कि जो सबसे लो मेयार है लर्निंग का, वो मेरी नज़रों में एक तकलीदी अंदाज है कि किसी ने किया है उस सर्विस को आप ऐसे ही करें जिस तरह उसने रिपोर्ट किया है. And usually we have been doing that. We have been adopting case studies from North America and applying. We have been adopting, say, things which were done in cities and doing the same in rural areas. And that is the least way of learning and applying. जो दूसरा है एक ये कि the typical तनकीदी or क्रिटिकल वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट थिंग्स कि जहाँ हर चीज़ को परखे, उसका जायजा ले, जांचे और फिर क्रिटिक करे कि क्या बेहतर है। जो उन दोनों के बीच का एक रास्ता है विच कैन बी कॉल्ड एन एनालिटिकल, या उर्दू में कहे तो एक तहकीकी अंदाज है, वो ये है कि उसको परखे और बजाय उस काम को करने के what we lessons we get from that and how we apply those lessons to design our program. That may not be a replica of what someone did, but that may be informed by the learning someone did, ताकि उस लर्निंग के बेस पे हम अपने कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कोई प्रोग्राम डिजाइन करें जो हमारे क्लाइंटेल के लिए मौजू हो। सो विद दैट बैकग्राउंड जो पैराडाइम है उसमें व्हाट आई वुड प्रेफर to pose some of the questions to ourselves, to myself, to you and every one of us. जो पहली चीज है जिसका जवाब शायद आज हम ना दे सके और ना दे दे that's okay, कि what precedes and what follows, यानी पहली हैसियत किसकी है? पहली हैसियत टेक्नोलॉजी की है, या पहली हैसियत पेडागोजी की है, या पहली हैसियत बच्चे की है? What is important than others? दूसरी चीज है कि जब बिट कॉन्शियस एफर्ट एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल चैलेंज टू अंडरस्टैंड टेक्नोलॉजी, कि टेक्नोलॉजी इस पूरे प्रोसेस में क्या है? इज इट अ मीन्स टू एन एंड और इज इट एन एंड इन इटसेल्फ? क्या हम टेक्नोलॉजी के सीखने की कोशिश करते हैं या टेक्नोलॉजी जस्ट एक टूल है? और जो तीसरी चीज है, वी विल गो टू दैट टुवर्ड्स द एंड, that is the pedagogical content knowledge, कि जब हम pedagogical content knowledge की बात करते हैं, how different that is from content and how different that is from pedagogy. और जो last in मेरी नज़र में the most important factor है जिसको पोस्ट करना चाहिए, where is human factor in this entire, कि जो एक adult का रोल है और human factor है वो कहाँ पे आता है? तो ये कुछ critical questions होंगे while we go through. It may be task and assignment for all of us to reflect and reflect and reflect, so that we can relate our experience to that. So with that background, what I'll do कि I'll go through what we did during this. जब मैं फेब में मार्च में पैंडेमिक का फॉर्मली अनाउंस हुआ, स्कूल बंद होने का इंदिया दिया, and that was all of a sudden कि we were told to shut down schools without any preparation. We were not aware कि हमारी लाइफ में कोई ऐसी चीज आएगी जो routines को change करेगी, and we will be just in a context which has never been experienced in the past. तो उस background में कि what we did and how we did, I'll try to brief you about that. उसको करने से पहले जो कुछ बैकग्राउंड चीजें हैं कि इस पूरे को करने के लिए enablers, what were the enablers, या किसी भी इस तरह के डिजिटल कंटेंट को करने के लिए enablers क्या हैं? जो पहली चीज है वो किसी भी एजुकेशन में, टीचिंग में, इट्स कंटेंट, what you are going to teach and how you are going to teach. So there's the key thing, do you have the right content in place? The second enabler is technology. When you talk about digital learning, तो जो 4-5 सवाल आप अपने आप से पूछते हैं as an educator or teacher, कि do I have the content? Do I have the technology? और फिर जो beneficiaries है जिन्होंने इससे फायदा उठाना है, do they have the tools available? कि हो सकता है टेक्नोलॉजी इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है लेकिन हर लर्नर का टूल तक एक्सेस नहीं है. So there's the one of the check कि do they have tools that may be a desktop, a laptop, a mobile phone, or any gadget which can be used. Even TVs can be used. So if those three ticks are there, then the question is, do we have necessary media to reach them? कि maybe they have gadgets, but we don't have the media to reach them. And then do they have the power supply at their end? So these are the key enablers in any digital learning. So while you'll find a lot of excitement और बहुत सारा लिखेंगे उस पे कि 21st century and after COVID life will be changed, we will go to technology. But without these basic checks, that debate will be useless. कि जब तक ये चीजें पांचों bucks tick ना हो, so it's not very useful to talk about technology. So with this background, when we were faced with that pandemic issue and we were asked to go to other sources of learning, what we did, we conducted a survey. ये मार्च में हुआ था. We decided कि first let's know our context कि क्या है. उस सर्वे के कुछ फॉर्म्स हमने बना दिया. Of course, my colleagues who are literally working on technology and computers, they developed those templates with our guidance, and then those were sent to field. Of course, with very limited time. और उसका एक बैकग्राउंड गिलगित का मैं शेयर करता हूँ. उसमें जो 5-6 बड़ी चीजें हमने पूछी थी, those were things kind of what enrollment we talk about, and out of those enrollment, like you can look only in Gilgit, those were around 21,000 children. उनमें से कितने के पास मोबाइल फोन था? How many had electricity in their area? How many had TV in their area? Do they have access to local cable? Do they have USBs at home? Do they have a laptop or desktop? Do they have smartphone? Do they have internet connectivity? And how many are there who don't have anything? So ये survey we did we had limitations, so within 2-3 weeks we were able to complete that, and we came up with the data. They told us कि हम जिस clientele की बात करते हैं, what we can do and what we cannot do. If I present a summary of that, जो गिलगित बल्तिस्तान में जो हमारा catchment area था, of course उसमें गिलगित town भी है, हुंजा, गजर, particularly these areas, around 15% had access to internet, which means कि 85% didn't have. 85% का इंटरनेट तक एक्सेस नहीं था. लेकिन उस 85% के पास दूसरे वो थे जो किसी हद तक इंटरनेट का अल्टरनेटिव हो सकते थे. लाइक 45% बच्चों के पास टीवी था जो लोकल केबल से कनेक्टेड था. 28% के पास अपने यूएसबीज थे. 30% के पास यूएसबीज नहीं थे. And one more thing, I guess I missed that around 84% के घरों में टीवी मौजूद थे. So out of those 84, 45% were connected through cable. बाकियों का या satellite के साथ connected होगा. It was like that. So this was a phenomena that study told us that this is the situation we can make use of. So now when you look at the situation, you cannot adopt one strategy which can fulfill all the demands. So based on that, what we did, we adopted multiple ways to reach the children. We made use of cable service. Digital content बनाया और उसको cable service के through display किया. We made use of, we simply delivered the content to the children in their USBs so that they could use at home. We made use of Google Classroom, जो 15% का था, उसमें Google Classroom का use किया. We made use of hard copies for study pack. And there was one more thing I'm missing. And that was a mix of all these. कि कुछ बच्चों के पास शायद ये था कि ये तीनों चीजें मौजूद थी, so that they could overlap their experiences. तो उसमें जो key strategic steps थे, how we did it. The first thing we engaged with that, is it different from a normal context? Is teaching through digital media different from teaching in a classroom? So when we engaged with that, we felt that we should have a new academic framework that defines this era and that defines kind of pedagogical approaches which are fit for this type of learning. So वो academic framework defined किया, which talked about technology, which talked about the typical kind of engagement where you are not in a normal classroom, where you are in the control of a teacher, where kids can interact each other, वी हैड अ सिचुएशन जिसमें हर घर में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 2 या 3 बच्चे होंगे, लेकिन ज़्यादा कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ये होगा कि लर्नर एक है एंड देन दे हैव गॉट एक्सेस टू एडल्ट्स। जो दूसरी चीज़ हमने की उस बेस पे, देन वी डिज़ाइन कंटेंट, फिर उस कंटेंट को लेके हाउ वी ऑर्गेनाइज द लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंसेस, कि उसको लेसन प्लान के फॉर्म में कैसे लेके आते हैं, कि जिसमें कंटेंट है उसके साथ क्या एक्टिविटी अब करें। देन द फोर्थ थिंग वाज वंस यू डू दैट, नाउ हाउ वी डिजिटाइज्ड इट। तो वो डिजिटाइज करने के देयर आर मल्टीपल वेज, बट द वे वी अडॉप्ट वाज wherever possible, instead of reinventing the wheel, अगर कोई डिजिटल कंटेंट अवेलेबल है तो इट्स बेटर टू अडॉप्ट दैट। अगर नहीं है तो देन द ओनली ऑप्शन इज लेफ्ट इज when our own teacher acts and we record that, so that we use both the forms, synchronous and asynchronous. एक वो है जिसमें हमारा टीचर लाइव जाता है, दूसरा वो है जिसमें हम रिकॉर्ड करते हैं, उसका एक डिजिटल कंटेंट बनाते हैं, देन दैट्स मेड अवेलेबल इन मल्टीपल फॉर्म्स। या बच्चा उसको अपने कंप्यूटर पे देखे या उसको केबल के ऑपरेटर को दे दे, सो दैट इट्स ब्रॉडकास्टेड इन मीडिया, और वी कैन मेक इट अवेलेबल थ्रू बोथ द मीन्स। सो उसमें जो स्टेप है कि डिजिटल कंटेंट डेवलपमेंट, that involves that another skill which we don't use in normally in our own classrooms, कि जिसमें एक अच्छे कैमरे की भी जरूरत है, जिसमें एक कैमरामैन की भी जरूरत है, and then the technical skills to curate that content and to transform that. Then the use of media to deliver, जो मैंने पहले बात की of course one media was internet, but we know that it's not available everywhere. So we looked for other media which included the use of local cable, the use of USB to deliver that, and the use of and directly someone takes copies and uses in the laptop or desktop. Then there was necessary part of reinforcement, कि जब एक दफा इसको दिया गया बच्चे को, उन्होंने किया, तो how that is reinforced through other means, ताकि we don't rely on only a digital content. There are other forms of reinforcement which I'll talk later. तो इसमें जो key players थे या किसी भी उसमें होते हैं, होने चाहिए, you need a good academic leader who understands both content, pedagogy, and the technology aspect of that. We needed good teachers to develop those lessons. We need technology facilitators to translate those lessons into digital content. Then, of course, the key players include students and parents. And in this case, when you deal with children of 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, जो role of adult है, वो ज़्यादा important होता है, where you cannot treat the kid as an independent learner. Of course, a kid is an independent learner. You need a facilitator. In earlier case, in normal cases, जो teacher था वो facilitator था to facilitate learning. Since teacher is not in physical contact with the child, we need that replacement. और उसमें parents का role critical importance का था. तो इसमें जो key phases थे learning experience के, जो पहला step था वो था once we develop this content, then the very important thing was to train the key implementers, which included the teachers and the learning technology facilitators, कि वो कैसे उसको आगे लेके जाए, कैसे through digital media करें. As I talked कि जो Google classrooms की बात की, around 15% children were connected through Google Classrooms. So their teachers were live, they were active, and they could see students as well. But in case of pre-primary, it was very limited, except in Karachi. So ज़्यादातर जो हमारा reliance था, that was on digitizing the lesson, recording it, and distributing it through either cable or in USBs. तो उसमें एक तो टीचर का जो रोल था दैट वाज ऑफ एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, जो उसको एडमिनिस्टर कर रहा था, एंड देन ऑफ द रीइंफोर्सर कि जहाँ जहाँ पॉसिबल है हाउ दे कैन मेक यूज ऑफ फोन कॉल्स, any other means of contact to facilitate the child at home, and how they are in contact with the parents, ताकि उनको समझा दे कि क्या कंटेंट हमने दिया है, how the child has to sit in front of the TV, and how they have to engage. And then of course orientation for the beneficiaries, जिसमें beneficiaries children थे, and that orientation was very limited, and mostly it was done by parents. Again, when we talk about the senior children of grade 8, 9, 10, more direct orientation of the children was also done. So before going to the next step, जो typical एक pre-primary बच्चे का जो classroom experience था, in most of the cases in Gilgit-Baltistan and Chitral, and in some parts of South like interior Sindh, ये lessons या तो display हुए टीवी के स्क्रीन पे, जहाँ केबल क्लासरूम का इस्तेमाल किया गया, केबल का इस्तेमाल किया गया, और they were displayed by an adult on a personal computer, and the child had to sit and do as directed. उसमें जो एक्टिविटीज कहा गया था उसको करना था. उसमें बाज़ एक्टिविटीज वो थे जो बच्चा उसी वक्त कर रहा था, like drilling a language pattern and drilling numeracy pattern, and others were those which were kind of instructions for adults so that they can do with the children after that digital lesson was displayed. And of course, when you talk about parents in remote context, it varies. Which parents who could do they did it. Which वो थे who complained कि as a parent it's not my ability and responsibility to be able to do what you are asking me to do. मेरी pronunciation वो नहीं है, मेरी अल्फाज की understanding नहीं है, but the request was that at least they could do that activity with the child, which at least involved the gross motor skills, the fine motor skills, and the body movements. Those at least they could do. But of course, what you can expect that we had mixed feedback. There were parents who were very happy. There were parents who said it's not only a learning for the child, it's learning for us as well. First time we knew what's taking place in a school and what's the experience of a child with teacher, or what is the experience of a teacher with child. And at the same time, there were other parents who said we simply cannot do. And we assured that we will redo it once schools reopen. So it was a mixed experience. I'll not go to this technical detail that may not be very meaningful. So as I talked that the delivery was in two forms. There were synchronous lessons where teacher was live through Google Classroom, जहाँ बच्चे टीचर को देख सकते थे, टीचर बच्चों को देख सकता था, and that was kind of live interaction from distance between children and teachers. It was very limited in GB and C. It was more so in Karachi and Hyderabad and some parts of Sindh. And the other part was asynchronous lessons where lessons were digitized and they were displayed. So it was kind of a child is watching TV, but those were personalized lesson for that child, and he could make more meaning from that watching and doing the activity. और उसकी instruction paper form में पहले गई थी और parents were informed to play their role. So achievements were many. I'll just briefly talk about that. Will not go point by point. कि जो सबसे major achievement था वो मेरी नजरों में ये था कि that engagement with the child, that was somehow done in that difficult time. If you single out that I would say was an achievement. जो content उस पूरे time में एक बच्चे को deliver होना चाहिए वो deliver हुआ, लेकिन how much a child experienced that varied from context to context, and that context included the profile of parents, the access to media, and also the age of the child. Like जो pre-primary 3 का बच्चा है, जो 4 से 5 साल का होता है, you can expect that child to do some of the activities better than the child who is between 3 to 4 years. So that varied, but at least that engagement with content was there in some way. And a fallout benefit, as I talked, that it developed a new relationship between teacher and parents. And that first time, majority of parents were really aware that what's the scope of learning in a pre-primary classroom, and एक टीचर बच्चे के साथ कैसे एंगेज होता है. सो इट वाज काइंड ऑफ फ्लिप क्लासरूम की जहाँ जो रोल एक टीचर प्ले कर रहा था, वी वर रिक्वेस्टिंग पेरेंट्स टू डू दैट. हाउ मच दे डिड, दैट्स अ सेपरेट क्वेश्चन. लेकिन जो फॉलो आउट बेनिफिट है ये है कि फर्स्ट टाइम पेरेंट वाज एक्सपीरियंसिंग द रोल ऑफ अ मेंटोर. A parent was experiencing the role of a coach in the life of child, which the parent should anyway do. तो इसमें जो कुछ implications हैं, I'll come to that last point, कि what are the implications of digital technology for a young child? वो बच्चा जो 2 से 3 साल के बीच में है, वो बच्चा जो 3 से 4 साल के बीच में है, और वो बच्चा जो 4 से 5 साल के बीच में है. जो एडल्ट सुपरविजन है, दैट प्लेज अ की रोल. एक क्लासरूम में इस पेंडेमिक में समझ में आ गया कि एक टीचर का रोल is not only deliverer of content. A teacher is much more than that. A teacher is mentor, a teacher is coach, and more importantly, a teacher is an adult to share that affiliation, to share those emotions, to share that feeling of belongingness. तो वो टेक्नोलॉजी के थ्रू नहीं हो सकता. Again, you need a human being to do that. That human being for these young kids may be parents or adults in the family. जो दूसरा रोल था कि रोल ऑफ पेरेंट्स इज गार्डियन एंड कॉन्टेक्ट पर्सन्स, कि whatever, no matter whatever content you do, आपका कंटेंट कितना अच्छा है, कितना अच्छा पेडागोजी इस्तेमाल किया है, लेकिन जब तक पेरेंट एज अ गार्डियन वो रोल प्ले ना करे, अर्लियर की एक्सपीरियंस पूरी नहीं होती है. ये पेंडेमिक में ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट था क्योंकि इंटायर रिलायंस वाज ऑन पेरेंट. सो द रोल द टीचर प्लेज इन अ क्लासरूम, वी वर एक्सपेक्टिंग द पेरेंट्स टू प्ले दैट रोल, और हमारा काम ज्यादातर उस रोल को कैसे प्ले करना है वो उस टीचर को बताना था, और दूसरा क्या रोल प्ले करना है वो डिलीवर करना था. In the rest, we were relying on the capacities and a goodwill and responsibility of a parent or adult in the family to deal with the child, to engage with the child. जो तीसरी the most important चीज थी, that's activity. अगर आप प्री प्राइमरी का चाहे हाई स्कोप की बात करें, चाहे मॉन्टेसरी की बात करें, चाहे फोबेल की बात करें, whatever approach you talk about, if you ask me what is the crux one word, that I will say active learning. चाहे आप जितना अच्छा content करें, until you activate the child, until the child is given that necessary guidance and freedom to actively engage with the manipulatives, वो ECCE की learning नहीं हो सकती है. तो how much children were active at home, we relied on families. And then of course the provision of resources and orientation की हमने डिजिटल लेसन दिया. उस घर में उसको करने के लिए क्या वो मैनिपुलेटर्स अवेलेबल थे, क्या वो नेसेसरी एनवायरनमेंट अवेलेबल था, क्या वो पेरेंट्स का गुडविल इतना था कि दे वर रियली कन्विंस्ड टू प्रोवाइड दैट एनवायरनमेंट. दैट typically depended on that respective parent, and definitely it varied from family to family and parent to parent. Moving forward from that, the most important thing जो इससे गुफ्तगू के आगाज में मैंने कहा कि जो worst thing होगी कि जो मैंने किया है वही अडॉप्ट करके कोई करे, और जो best thing होगी वो ये कि what are some of the takeaways which enable me as a parent or as a teacher or as a pedagogical leader to design my learning experiences. तो at least जो मेरे लिए learning था इस पूरे pandemic में digital learning से, that was the critical importance of the role of an adult. वो चाहे मदर हो, फादर हो, बड़े भाई हो, कोई फैमिली मेंबर हो. Childhood for me is a relationship. Childhood for me is a relationship. And early child development is a product of that relationship. That relationship is between a child and mother. That relationship may be between a child and father. And that relationship may be between a child and teacher. और जब हम उस रिश्ते को निभाते हैं तो उसका जो प्रोडक्ट है वो डेवलपमेंट है. और कितना डीपली, कितना अच्छा उस रिश्ते को आप निभाते हैं, इतना अच्छा प्रोडक्ट उसका आता है. बाकी सारे एनेबलर्स है, चाहे आप टीवी यूज करें, कंप्यूटर यूज करें, आप मोबाइल फोन यूज करें, आप क्लासरूम यूज करें, दीज आर जस्ट एनेबलर्स. तो वो चाहे 21वीं सदी का कोई भी हिस्सा हो, चाहे टेक्नोलॉजी जितनी भी एडवांस हो, वो एडल्ट का रोल क्रिटिकल रहेगा. और वो रिश्ता जो निभाना है वो कितना अच्छी तरह निभाते हैं, दैट विल डिटरमिन कि बच्चा कैसे डेवलप होता है. और उससे लर्निंग जो है, बड़ी चीज जो हम ऑलरेडी कर रहे थे, बट दिस पेंडेमिक टॉट अस मोर फोर्सफुली, मोर विगोरसली एंड रिगोरसली, इज द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ पेरेंट एजुकेशन. कि हम पेरेंट्स को कितना एजुकेट करते हैं. द बेस्ट लर्निंग, इफ यू आस्क मी, कि अगर आप तमाम पेरेंट्स को एजुकेट करें और प्री प्राइमरी सेंटेंस खत्म कर सकें, that would be the ideal solution. But while having saying easy then done, I am a parent, I know that how difficult that is. And there may be many lazy parents like me जो उस theory के knowledge भी रखते हैं, understanding भी रखते हैं, but when it practically comes to play the role of a parent, so it becomes limited to producing children mostly, or to maximum to feeding them and giving them cloth and protection. जो उसका जो दूसरा 50% है, where we are mentors, we are coaches, we are tutors, we are active practitioners in their lives, that's not easy. तो उसका आसान हल जो है कि उन तमाम बच्चों को एक क्लासरूम में जमा करें और एक एडल्ट को हायर करें जो वो कर सके. The best thing you can do in any society, if you have a trained enough parent and if they have that necessary skill and the goodwill to engage with their children, uska naam ulbadal koi nahi hai. No machine, no teacher can be replacement of that. Just the last dilemma, mostly this will be the question, not answers. Will technology ever replace human factor? The simple answer is no. और जो दूसरा which we cannot answer but we can go back, कि is technology a means to an end or an end in itself? तो ये वो है जो आसान जवाब दे सकते, but I would request you कि we should take it as a food for thought, so that we constantly engage and again ask ourselves कि is technology a means or an end? एक जो मेरी learning है, and that's a kind of pain or a kind of pinching point, कि इस टेक्नोलॉजी के हेसल में His Highness ने ब्राउन यूनिवर्सिटी में एक स्पीच दी थी, where he talked about technology, knowledge society. He said कि information का एक हेसल आ गया है और their knowledge is lost, and often there's a haphazard information, irregular information, not useful information, but it's a flow that drives you. तो इस पूरे हेसल में, टेक्नोलॉजी के हेसल में, नॉलेज के हेसल में, अक्सर मैंने देखा है कि when people talk about digital learning, they talk mostly about computer, they talk about internet bandwidth, they talk about USB. तो उस पूरे टॉक में जो चीज कम डिस्कस होती है वो टीचर्स की कॉम्पिटेंस, वो क्या सब्सटेंस देना है और क्या वो वाकई में सही सब्सटेंस है उस एज ग्रुप के लिए, एंड द वे इट्स ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. इफ आई गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, इफ माय वाइफ मेक्स अ डिश और उसमें उसको बताया जाता है कि इसके लिए 4 इंग्रेडिएंट्स हैं, हलवा बनाने के लिए आपको किशमिश चाहिए, चीनी चाहिए, आटा चाहिए, या सूजी चाहिए और साथ में तेल चाहिए. And then if she doesn't understand the order of that कि पहले चीनी उबालना है या सूजी उबालना है, the end up will be a different thing. That may be halwa but may not be that halwa what she had seen. तो जब आपका कंटेंट हो सकता है आपको इंटरनेट से भी मिले, आपके मेथोडोलॉजी की चीजें किताबों में भी लिखी हूं, but if you don't have an expert teacher who is able enough to organize those learning experiences in the right order, आप जितनी अच्छी टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल करें, it will be an example of like you have put the cart in front of the horse. So जो सबसे बड़ा डेंजर है 21st सेंचुरी में और टेक्नोलॉजी के एरा में, that is a risk of compromising on essence. जहां आप कंटेंट को छोड़ के उस बच्चे को क्या चाहिए वो छोड़ के you have an excitement about the buzz of technology कि अच्छे अच्छे स्क्रीन लगे हैं, इंटरनेट की बैंडविड्थ है, wonderful products that have been developed, and you feel कि you have wonderful ECD. We have a dire need to go back to basics, जहां सब छोड़ के हम उस रिश्ते की बात करें कि एक एडल्ट एक कंटेंट लेके उस बच्चे के साथ ऐसा रिश्ता बांधता है कि वो कंटेंट इन अ सीमलेस मैनर उस बच्चे की पर्सनालिटी का हिस्सा बन जाए. द मोमेंट वी आर एबल टू बिल्ड दोज रिलेशनशिप, उस रिश्ते को मजबूत कर सकें, तो चाहे कोई मशीन हो या ना हो, बिलीव मी वी विल बी एबल टू क्लेम दैट वी हैव डेवलप्ड द राइट चिल्ड्रन. So I think I should stop here, and while I have to go for a meeting, if there are any quick questions, I can respond in the next, say, 5 to 10 minutes, rather say 7 minutes if we be exact. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful discussion and elaborating it in detail. What are the challenges and what we need to do? And you very rightly said that the biggest threat that we are facing here is compromising on the content, and not to mention that irrespective of what sort of technology we are going to have, if our teachers are not trained and they're not well equipped, they won't be able to do justice to it. We have like 2-3 questions. Mr. Rashid here asked, are our teachers equipped to deal with technology, and how can we make them, especially when you have mentioned so many challenges in terms of hardwares and softwares and internet connectivity and things not being available? Over to you, sir. Aien Shah.
Again, this is the first question which I was discouraging in a sense. The easiest way is to train them in technology. Some are currently trained, some are half trained, some are not trained, but training them in technology is the easiest thing that we can do within days. तो उसमें कोई इशू नहीं है. हमें क्वेश्चन ये करना चाहिए कि are teachers trained in understanding of ECD? Do they understand child development? Do they understand the right pedagogies? And do they understand in amalgamating the content according to the age? And that's the real concern, and that's the real challenge we should pose.
Absolutely, I agree with you, sir, because when we talk about the child development, the nurturing care framework comes first. आप पहले बच्चे की जो केयर करनी है वो कर पाएंगे. आपने अभी जिक्र भी किया अपनी टॉक में कि जो पेरेंटल केयर है दैट इज मोस्ट क्रूशल. इसी के साथ सर एक और सवाल है, सैयदा साइमा मजहर पूछ रही है, व्हाट इज योर ओपिनियन ऑन कस्टमाइज्ड डिजिटल लर्निंग solutions offered by some educational services providers such as Knowledge Platform or some other? There are many in the market now who are providing custom-made solutions. So what's your take on that?
I think some of these platforms like Knowledge Platform are doing a great job as they are customizing the learning. But if you ask me, I would say customization or contextualization is relative. If someone claims that I have customized a product for Pakistan, I would question that, is that customized for Hunza? Is that customized for Balochistan? So that customization, contextualization should continue. And the best thing is, have I been able to train my teacher there so that she can customize those learning experiences for that individual child? Even when you go to a classroom, child A is different from child B. So the customization should take place there. कि जहाँ जो child A के लिए वो design करते वो slightly different हो child B से. So anyone who claims can claim to some extent, but no one can claim that they have customized a product for a nation, because children are different. They need different kind of responses.
Absolutely, sir. Very wonderfully enveloped. आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि हम एक लाठी से सबको नहीं हाँक सकते. हर बच्चा एक इंडिविजुअल बच्चा है, उसकी requirements different and we have to cater individually. And not to mention that every area has its own dynamics and they need to be seen in that context when we are devising anything for the children. So with this, we reached our end. And thank you so much, sir. Unfortunately, we had a bit of technical glitch. We are facing those challenges with technology also, but we are very thankful to you for taking time out and sharing such beautiful knowledge with us. And inshallah, we'll be engaging you in future as well.
Arooj and team, thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed, irrespective of that disturbance, but this is something I enjoy and I thoroughly enjoy talking to you. And I'll be there at any time if we can have any discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye.